Order for Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. If I can remind you to please turn off any electronic devices, cell phones, tablets, whatever, that make noise, we would appreciate it. First item is roll call. If I can ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Conley. Here. Trustee Sullivan.
Present.
Trustee Dunham.
Present.
Trustee Madej.
Present.
Trustee Bishke.
Present.
Trustee Kozak.
Here.
President Daly.
Present. All present and accounted for. Thank you. Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to ask Trustee Marge Conley to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance for the last time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trustee Conley. Next item is the approval of minutes from April 13th, 2021. Look for a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Conley.
Aye.
Trustee Sullivan.
Aye.
Trustee Dunham.
Aye.
Trustee Madej.
Aye.
Trustee Bishke.
Aye.
Trustee Kozak.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Next item is the approval of expenditures for $3,720,149.70.
Move to approve the expenditures as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the expenditures. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Conley.
Aye.
Trustee Sullivan.
Aye.
Trustee Dunham.
Aye.
Trustee Madej.
Aye.
Trustee Bishke.
Aye.
Trustee Kozak.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Next item is a presentation regarding Tree City USA Award for 2020 to the Village of Schaumburg by Director of Engineering and Public Works, Michael Hall.
Good evening. I am happy to announce that we have received the designation of Tree City USA from the Arbor Day Foundation. Tree City USA provides a framework for municipalities to otherwise manage the urban forest, and it provides some core standards for us to follow to meet those requirements and to get the designation. One of those is the celebration of Arbor Day, which is going to be this Friday at Dooley School, and that's one of some of the core requirements of Tree City USA. We are happy that this is the 16th time that the village has received this designation. We had a little bit of a drought. Our first one was in 1983, and then we had also 1990 through 2003. So we are back at Tree City USA thanks to the board's action with some of the ComEd tree trimming and whatnot. There are 170 Tree City USA communities in Illinois, and we're happy to be one of them again. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Hey, while you're there, hang on a minute.
Sure.
So how are we doing with the ash borer? So while I have you up here, I'm going to ask that question.
Very good. We're in kind of the later stages now. We are treating about 500 trees, 500 good ash trees a year. We've got about 1,500 ash trees in our inventory currently, so every third year that would get a treatment. Those will slowly die out. Some of them will slowly die out. We're hopeful that some of them will continue to flourish. We do take them down once they reach a certain % canopy loss. So we are removing about 100 to 150 or so a year. We're also in a good point in our replanting. We're still planting about 800 trees a year to get us back to replacement of all the ash trees removed. So I believe we are in one of our last years. I think we've got one more year after this to really, and then we'll just be keeping up with what does die out. So
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right.
thanks, Mike.
Next item is liquor license request. We have a request from Mr. Ajun, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Patel for one Class F liquor license for Egg Mania located at 1133 North Salem Drive. Is the petitioner here? How about the petitioner being on the Zoom call? No, doesn't look like it. Okay, we're going to hold that item for next meeting. Next is the consent agenda. It will be read in its entirety. voted on as one motion to approve. If you wish to discuss an item further, please indicate that when the item is read by the village clerk so that it can be removed from the consent agenda and discussed further under committee reports. Otherwise, all items will be approved as presented on the consent agenda in one motion to approve. And will the clerk please read the consent agenda?
Number 1, proclamations. A, Monarch Conservation Month, May 2021. B, Public Service Recognition Week, May 2nd to 8th, 2021. C, Municipal Clerks Week, May 2nd to 8th, 2021. D, Public Works Week, May 16th to the 22nd, 2021. E, honoring Margaret Marge Conley. 2, Engineering and Public Works Committee. The motion would be to execute an agreement for the Atcher Municipal Center Plaza Design and Construction Administration with Corrigan, Clark and Associates of Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $52,252 and approve the required resolution. B, the motion would be to authorize participation in the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance and award a contract for the Fire Station 52 epoxy floor replacement to FH Paction of Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $63,028.65. C, the motion would be to award a contract for the 2021 concrete repair program to the lowest responsible bidder, Schroeder & Schroeder, Inc. of Skokie, Illinois, in the amount of $1,585,327. D, the motion would be to ratify the emergency expenditures for snow removal services with Ploty Construction, Inc. of Hoffman Estates, Illinois, in a total amount of $55,200. E, the motion would be to approve a resolution to utilize motor fuel tax funds in accordance with the Illinois Department of Transportation resolution for maintenance of streets and highways by Schaumburg under the Illinois Highway Code. F, the motion would be to approve the vehicle replacement plan for the year 21-22. G, the motion would be to waive competitive bidding for the purchase of vehicle parts with the Trans-Chicago Truck Group of Elmhurst, Illinois, and authorize expenditures up to $60,000. H, the motion would be to execute an agreement for final design services of Rodenberg Road improvements from Central Avenue to Irving Park Road with Civil Tech Engineering, Inc. of Itasca, Illinois, in the amount of $338,038.85 and approve the required resolution. I, the motion would be to execute a local agency agreement for federal participation for the Meacham Road and Gulf Road bike path improvements, Phase 2 engineering services for $239,194 and approve the required resolution. I, the motion would be to execute an agreement for the Meacham Road and Gulf Road bike path improvements, Phase 2 engineering services with Civil Tech Engineering, Inc. of Itasca, Illinois, in the amount of $239,193.71 and approve the required resolution. 3, Finance, Legal, Administrative, and General Government. The motion would be to approve the Finance Department monthly report for March 2021. B, the motion would be to waive competitive bidding and approve the sole source subscription renewal for Microsoft 0365 licensing with Liftoff LLC of Crofton, Maryland, in the amount of $78,168. C, the resolution would be to approve a resolution authorizing the renewal of Tyler Technologies, Inc., Munis contract through April 30th, 2024. D, the motion would be to approve a resolution authorizing a 3-year agreement for Environmental Systems Research Institution, ESRI, enterprise licensing and support with ESRI, Inc. of Redlands, California, in the total amount of $182,250 and approve payments in the amount of $60,750 for each of the 3 years. E, the motion would be to approve issuance of a pay-down purchase order in the amount of $265,962 for technical staffing services with Sierra ITS of Park Ridge, Illinois. F, the motion would be to approve the annual pay plan adjustment for the year 21-22. G, the motion would be to extend the agreement with Thomas Weir LLC and N.J. Kimmy and Company for legislative consulting services for the year 21-22. H, the motion would be to accept the proposed plan for Septemberfest 2021 with the addition of a fireworks show and direct the village manager to proceed with a plan as amended.
Please poll.
Trustee Madej, poll. 4, Committee of the Whole. The motion would be to adopt an ordinance adopting an annual budget for the fiscal year commencing May 1st, 2021 and ending April 30th, 2022 in lieu of passage of an appropriation ordinance. 5, Public Safety Committee. The motion would be to adopt an ordinance amending Title 15, Chapter 157, Section 157.02 of the Schaumburg Village Code, repealing local amendments to Section 907.3.3 of the 2015 International Fire Code. B, the motion will be to approve the purchase and implementation of the situational awareness hardware solution at the total cost of $343,601.80 and issue purchase orders to the Centennial Solutions Aurora, Illinois for $299,193.64 to Pentegra Systems of Addison, Illinois for Gentetric licensing and figuration for $20,408.16 to allocate funds for the reimbursement for electrical work in the amount not to exceed $24,000. 6, Zoning Board of Appeals. The motion would be to approve a special use for apiary for Kolosova, 2213 West Weathersfield Way. 7, Project Review Group. The motion would be to approve a site plan for parking lot expansion for Galaxy Underground, Inc., 1075 Morse Avenue. 8, award of bid. The motion would be to award a bid for the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Sidewalk Gap Program to Schroeder & Schroeder, Inc. of Skokie, Illinois, in the amount of $120,850. 9, resolutions. The motion would be to adopt as resolution R21-023, authorizing village manager to execute an amendment to existing agreement between the Village of Schaumburg and Tyler Technologies, Inc., Munis, 2021-2024. B, the motion would be to adopt as resolution R21-024, authorizing village manager to execute an agreement between Village of Schaumburg and Environmental Systems Research Institute, Inc., ESRI, for GIS software and licensing 2021 to 2024. C, the motion would be to adopt as resolution number R21-025, setting the official pay plan for employees of Village of Schaumburg for fiscal year 2021-2022. D, the motion would be to adopt as resolution number R21-026, authorizing the village manager and village clerk to execute an agreement for the Atcher Memorial Center Plaza design and construction administrative with Corrigan Clark. E, the motion would be to adopt as resolution R21-027, to utilize motor fuel funds in accordance with the Illinois Department of Transportation resolution for maintenance of streets and highways by Schaumburg under the Illinois Highway Code 2021-2022. F, the motion would be to adopt as resolution R21-028, authorizing the village manager and village clerk to execute an agreement for final design services of Rodenberg Road from Central Avenue to Irving Park Road with Civil Tech Engineering, Inc. G, The motion would be to adopt as Resolution R21-029, authorizing the village president to execute a local agency agreement for federal participation for the Meacham Road and Gulf Road Bike Path Improvements, Phase 2 Engineering Services. H, the motion would be to adopt as Resolution 21-030, authorizing the village manager and village clerk to execute an agreement for the Meacham Road and Gulf Road Bike Path Improvements, Phase 2 Engineering Services with Civil Tech Engineering. 10, ordinances. The motion would be to waive first reading and adopt as ordinance number 21-046, granting a special use for apiary for I'm sorry about this, Kolovovaya, 2213 West Weathersfield Road, Weathersfield Way, excuse me. B, the motion would be to waive first reading and adopt as ordinance number 21-047, granting a site plan for parking lot expansion for Galaxy Underground, Inc., 2075 Morris Road. C, the motion would be to waive first reading and adopt as ordinance number 21-048, adopting an annual budget for the Village of Schaumburg for the fiscal year commencing May 1st, 2021 and ending April 30th, 2022, in lieu of passage of an appropriation ordinance. D, the motion would be to waive first reading and adopt as ordinance number 21-049, proposing the establishment of Nitty Schaumburg Development Special Service Area 1, District 211 property in the Village of Schaumburg, Cook and DuPage Counties, Illinois, and providing for a public hearing and other procedures in connection therewith. E, the motion would be to waive first reading and adopt as ordinance number 21-050, adopting the Village of Schaumburg Experior Tax Increment Financing District Redevelopment Project Area Redevelopment Plan and Project. F, the motion would be to waive first reading and adopt as ordinance number 21-051, designating the Village of Schaumburg Experior Tax Increment Financing District Redevelopment Project Area. G, the motion would be to waive first reading and adopt as ordinance number 21-052, adopting tax increment financing for the Village of Schaumburg Experior Tax Increment Finance District. H, the ordinance would, the motion would be to waive first reading and adopt as ordinance number 21-053, amending Title 15, Chapter 157, Section 157.02 of the Schaumburg Village Code regarding local amendments to 2015 International Fire Code. This concludes the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item 5H, the recommendation to accept proposed plan for September Fest.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the items as read on the consent agenda with the one item pulled for further discussion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Conley.
Aye.
Trustee Sullivan.
Aye.
Trustee Dunham.
Aye.
Trustee Madej.
Aye.
Trustee Bishke.
Aye.
Trustee Kozak.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, motion carries. We do have that one item, so we will go to that now. It's, the item is a recommendation to accept proposed plan for September Fest for 2021 with the addition of the fireworks show and direct village manager to proceed with the plan. Trustee Madej.
Okay, I'm not really against the proposal as to having staff undergo research of its feasibility. One of my concerns, I've got some background on September Fest. I used to be on the committee, and some of the concerns here are in the reduction of a day, in eliminating the parade, eliminating arts and crafts. This is going to be expensive. You know, every year we go through this where September Fest basically may have a bad weekend, And then the next year, we have a great weekend. So it pays for itself in most cases along the years. Septemberfest is one of the biggest draws for arts and crafts. And at the same time, the taste of Schaumburg, basically all the restaurants. The cost of the restaurants coming out here for a 2-day period, actually a 1-day, because we want to make Sunday a not-for-profit day. You're going to have trouble getting restaurants to commit to this. The other thing is the tents, the cost of the tents, the main stage putting that up. I disagree that having that would be helpful, because the cost of it and just getting 2 events for 2 nights, you're not going to get the draw. My concern is that we need to look outside, a little more outside of the box, and instead of a Septemberfest, maybe having an end of summer weekend fest or blowout or whatever, and use the existing stage we have for cover bands and local bands, having maybe some food trucks, getting the carnival. The carnival, of course, would probably want to get in here and open up on Friday to recover some of the cost of setup and all that. Something like that, and then call it something different. This way, we're not having a Septemberfest, but we're still doing something for our community. I think that's something we can do at a cost-effective way, and still have pride in our community, and then bring Septemberfest back next year, full blown out the way everybody expects it. I'm open for other ideas from the trustees. One of them was to spend more money on a more of a fall festival, a winter festival or something, to get, that would be a little later in the year, more chance of, opening up the, amount of people per 1,000 square foot or whatever, the regulations are. But I think we need to look into that as a possibility. One thing I think we do have to work with the Septemberfest committee. I think they can help out with the same type of fest. And they probably have a better chance of getting the volunteers they need. Whereas I think a 2-day thing, and also because of COVID, I think our committee is going to have trouble getting all the volunteers that is necessary to run a Septemberfest. Those are the points that I brought up, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not against the proposal. I just think we need to think outside the box.
So, as I recall, I'm not sitting on a committee, but as I recall, so the direction of staff was to take a look and say, can we do Septemberfest in any fashion whatsoever for this year? And if so, what might that look at? That's the task that was given to staff. They have come back with this, and the idea was, quite frankly, is to try and hold down the cost and yet put on something that resembles Septemberfest. People are looking for events to be able to go out to. You can see it, the grounds on a day like today are just full of people all over. They're walking their dogs, their kids, whatever, and having a good time. So trying to run a full 3-day event will easily cost $300,000-$400,000. And the idea was, can we reduce that into a more manageable number? Hence, staff came back with a 2-day fest and focus on the carnival, the food, and some of the entertainment. Basically, it's kind of, to a certain extent, getting back to what the Septemberfest was back in the early 80s, late 70s. So I know that was the direction, and that's how I believe they came to that, and certainly I let Brian speak for himself on what staff was doing, but I think that's where they were at. Had you expressed this to staff or to the other board members here?
I have mentioned it a couple times in conversation, but we've never sat down and really discussed this. I probably should have came to flag. I didn't realize it was on the agenda until it was too late. But I mean, one of the things that happens every year planning Septemberfest, and if Roxanne was here, she'd tell you, the restaurants and the carnival are always pushing to open up Friday so they can recoup some of their costs. So they want to do a fourth day, not reduce it to 2 days. Again, I think there's, staff's, intention is good, but I think if they sat down with the committee and actually Roxanne, I think that they would find out that you're not going to get it to, it's not going to be feasible the way they want to do it. It's just going to be very expensive, and they're not going to recoup the cost. And I got a feeling, I really believe you're going to have trouble getting the restaurants. You may get 1 or 2 big restaurants, and that's it. Whereas if you put something together differently and maybe have food trucks, they just roll in. You just have to have a food tent basically, and that's it. There's all kinds of different ideas that we can go to, and I would prefer not calling it Septemberfest. I would prefer saying we're delaying Septemberfest till next year, but we're going to put this together for you.
So the,
COVID fest.
I think we've all had enough of COVID. So this will cost us. The end result is this will cost us, but this is a way of celebrating coming out of this COVID and doing the best. So my understanding is the intent was to offer the restaurants a free booth. So not charge them for the booth, not charge them for the typical things we charge them for, so that basically it will encourage them to come in and set up and be here, in effect, for the 2 days. So that was my understanding, but I think I'm going to let either Jack or Brian maybe talk about how we arrived at this. I know there was some discussion with Rich from Chairman of Septemberfest Committee, and I do believe they did have some discussion with Roxanne, or maybe Jack did. Jack is the director of the Prairie Center and also in charge of, ultimately in charge of Septemberfest. So I'll let you guys address that.
Sure, I'll just talk generally, and then Jack put together the plan and the budget that was presented at Flag Committee, and we can talk about the details of that. But President Daley, you're correct. I mean, what we were asked to do was prepare some sort of a framework that we could use to offer some sort of end of summer event or festival to the community. And given the late date at which we're starting this, there were certain things that we determined were not feasible. Arts and Crafts Fair, a lot of those crafters have already picked shows for Labor Day weekend. They may have scheduled shows in other states that have less restrictions, and they're guaranteed larger crowds and quite frankly, more revenue. And so we really did focus on the things that we thought were feasible to be able to put together in a very short period of time. And so that's why we came forward with the plan as it was presented. There is no question that the village will have to subsidize the event to a greater extent in a pandemic year than what we have had to do in a typical year. And we have some estimates of that, but it is somewhat contingent on how successful we can be in fundraising and exactly what components of the festival we move forward with. I think the purpose of the discussion at the Flag Committee and the reason for the recommendation this evening is to ensure that the board is comfortable with the framework as it's been presented, and that we can move forward to recall Roxanne from layoff so she can start working on the details and assessing exactly what's feasible and what's not. And so we can reconvene, we can also reconvene the Septemberfest Committee. And Rich Wiskersian, who's the chair of that committee, has been engaged. I know I've talked to a couple of Septemberfest Committee members who've been in Village Hall just generally about their feelings about the event. I know Jack has talked to Roxanne and some other folks on Septemberfest Committee, and so I think there's some momentum here to be able to do this, but it's our intention to study it further, determine exactly what is feasible, and then come back to the Flag Committee in the future with future updates about what we think this event will look like. So that's a summary, and if there are detailed questions, Jack Netter is the director, and he can talk about.
If you want to add anything, Jack, otherwise, please step forward.
I think you've all summed it up pretty well. The only thing I might add is that the concerns that Trustee Madej brought up, we share almost point by point those very concerns. I'll say that the communication I've had with the crafters upon notification that that show is canceled was almost universally that they're sitting this year out regardless, because a crafter is a very difficult thing to do in that sort of environment. And I think portions of the fest that we felt were most important to maintain. Those decisions were made based on conversations with members of the committee, Rich Wiskerchin most notably. And so I would, I guess, ask for a little time to work more closely with the committee and have Roxanne start to work with the committee to fine-tune that plan a little bit. I agree, it will cost some money, but I do think that we can get some restaurants to participate if we make it, add some inducement and make it a little more attractive to them. You know, we would not try to do a full taste of Schaumburg for crowding reasons, if nothing else, but invite a certain selection of restaurants that are capable of serving a larger audience. And you mentioned food trucks with it. I think that's a great idea, and that's absolutely on the list to do as well. I think the concerts are a big draw, and again, it's a big expense, like you mentioned. But having the two stages, local bands and cover bands on the south stage, or on the north stage there, then the main stage acts in the evening, I think is a good balance, and that's going to be a good draw. We would probably have restaurants participating for both days, but our intent is to engage as many non-for-profits as we can, because, you know, we recognize that that's an important source of revenue for all of them. So.
Okay. Trustee Kozak, did you want to speak to this?
Thank you. I sat in on Jack's presentation at Flag last week, and you know, he pretty much covered just about almost every aspect that you look for the September Fest. You talk about, you said on the committee, Mark, and I know that, and there's many aspects that you got to cover, and he touched a lot of areas that you talked about. Okay, now this is a short notice. This is already, we're into May already. All right, and we're doing this on Labor Day. And I like the idea of a mini fest, because what this village needs is something to bring them back together right now. We have not had nothing for a long time because of the COVID thing. I think the 2-day fest that he's proposing will bring this village back together. It's something that the village is looking for. It's on a smaller scale. We're not going to have the arts and crafts, yeah, but I don't think they're going to come in for 2 days anyway. They're not going to make that commitment to come all the way here to Schaumburg just for 2 days, because they can't make no money. Plus, I don't think we could get the tent people to do like you had mentioned during your presentation also on this type of deal, you know. So I think what he's looking at and what he's presenting here on this mini scale type of thing is good. The carnival will be here. Food will be here, entertainment will be here. This is exactly what the village is looking for, something to break loose, to get out, to see their neighbors, to see the village people, not the village people, but you know what I'm talking about.
Note for main stage.
Saturday
You know what I'm
event.
talking about.
That's something that's village people?
I think this is exactly what this village needs right now, is a smaller, cut down scale type of deal, and I think it'll go good, and then break it loose for, you know, 2022, right to September Fest, go big time, big scale for the 50th plus 2, whatever you want to call it, you know, that would be great.
Other comments from the board?
I'll speak.
Thank you. Yes, Trustee Conley.
I've been probably one of the more conservative people on the whole COVID issues and all of that. And what Jack presented to me made sense if the village is willing to spend the money, because they're not going to get the sponsorships. And the carnival will pay us to be here for a couple of days, so that helps. But we're not going to get anywhere near. But what Jack was talking about was either smaller tents or separate tents. We talked about not doing entertainment inside the tent. And because craft fair won't be here, you're not going to have families that come where the guys may sit in the tent for an hour or two and have a beer and kibitz. We talked about an event where people would more like come to the event because they were seeing something on one of the stages, come to the event to take their kids to a carnival, but rotate through. That we're not going to encourage people to stay for hours like we did before, but it will be somewhat of an opportunity. So with that feeling and knowing where we're at with vaccinations and so on, I felt comfortable, even though I'm more conservative than some on the social distancing. But we're going to have to realize it's, you know, there's no making money this year or breaking even. It's going to cost money because we're just not going to get the kind of sponsorships we have in the past.
Okay, although it's my understanding bingo will be there, right?
Oh, bingo will be there.
Okay. One of the most important events,
right.
bingo.
Got that right.
We've heard that call loud and clear about bingo. Okay.
B17.
All right, there you go. Thank you. So if there's nothing further, then I'm going to look for a motion to recommend acceptance of the proposed plan for Septemberfest, and in effect, really, obviously, staff will have further discussion on this, and come back to flag with any further updates.
So moved.
Second.
The motion and a second to recommend approval. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Conley.
Aye.
Trustee Sullivan.
Aye.
Trustee Dunham.
Aye.
Trustee Madey.
Aye.
Trustee Bishki.
Aye.
Trustee Kozak.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you very much. Good discussion. There's nothing else here under committee reports. We go to comments from the audience. Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak before the village board for items that are pertinent towards the village? Please step forward, give us your name and address for the record. And I do believe that the village clerk
Bobby
is looking
Sloan,
for you.
736, what?
Can you sign in while you're out?
I already did,
Perfect. Thank you very much.
earlier,
Okay,
before you got here.
thank you.
Okay, 736 Fennel Court, Schaumburg. Am I loud enough this time? Okay.
Yes, good enough.
Actually, I wanted to thank people on the board, and not on the board yet, but I want to thank Brian Allen and Todd Wegner for actually coming to my property and walking it regarding the Nitty development. I have been trying to get somebody to walk that property, not just look at blueprints, but actually physically go there. And Todd was there yesterday, and it was very interesting. And some of the things are not even on the blueprints, which is what I figured, and that's why I wanted somebody out. Also, I'd like to thank Marge Connolly for always being kind and gracious and helpful in various events that I've attended and asked for her help with. And she's always, you know, stepped up to the plate, and I'll miss her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I signed in.
Okay, good for you.
826
Who are you?
West Wind Way, The Villages.
Yes, yes.
First, I want to thank you for having such great weather. It's actually warmer here today than it was back in the villages where I came from. I talked to both Brian and Tony from the Schaumburg Park District to put together a list of accomplishments of Marge. So I've got this big, long list. However, since most of you already know most of her accomplishments, I'll just provide a Cliff Notes version of it. I may be the only one that was fortunate to be there when Marge was first sworn in as her first elected position in 1983 as a commissioner with the Schaumburg Park District. We served together through numerous terms. I saw her grow as an elected official, in her ability to work with the public and staff, and most importantly, as a person. After she retired, I got water back there. After she retired from the Schaumburg Park District, she went to the dark side and joined the Village of Schaumburg Zoning Board. In a short time, Marge was nominated by Al, probably one of his best decisions, to serve as a village trustee to fill an unexpired term. Marge was a groundbreaker. There weren't many female commissioners or village trustees when she started in the 80s. She has set an example for all to follow. Marge has demonstrated over the years her dedication and willingness to ask tough but necessary questions. She always did what she felt was right. Jamie, you have some big high-heeled shoes to fill.
We want to see it.
With her additional free time, she may now be able to take her grandkids on a magical vacation. I'm now here for her last meeting as an elected official, and on behalf of the Schaumburg Park District and Village of Schaumburg residents, thank you, Marge, for your many years of service, and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Please step forward.
So my name is Randy Severance, and I live at 741 Fennel Court. And I think it's kind of ironic today that we're here, and I'm hearing about the Tree City Award. And we just took down like 200 mature trees in the Nitty property. Now, you guys don't know where I live.
Yes, we do.
But I have 7 does, 3 bucks, 3 coyotes, a family of red fox that bears their young every spring. It's all gone. I understand Nitty. I talked to Nico Nitty the other day on his cell phone. I fought up until the end for them to consider not taking down those trees on the north side of the perimeter, of which was 150 mature trees. In fact, the superintendent of Homer, to his credit, also called Nitty and said, "Are you guys really serious about taking down these trees? These are mature, they're beautiful trees." And he's an arborist. But yet they left a dead tree that hasn't budded in 3 years, that's 42 inches in diameter, right along the perimeter where the pipeline's at. That's been dead for 3 years. So we had Brian, Todd, and the superintendent for Homer there, and had a conversation about it. Guy's gonna build a path right here. That tree needs to go. I happen to have a nephew that died. Big tree came down up in Stakey Lake, and it killed him at 8 years old. Just like that tree, dead. I'm not here for that reason. I'm just here to tell you a little bit about that area and ask for you guys to consider. I think the development's going to be beautiful. Nitty's going to do a wonderful job. But I think we need to think about on that path that's being built there. It's going to be 9 foot wide. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to go right behind your house. It goes right behind my house. It's 25 feet from my patio. Okay? We should be having some kind of tree replacement program and a green wall or whatever for the path, so people riding bikes from Bartlett to Elk Grove Village know what's there. So the residents aren't bearing the responsibility of having these people in their backyard, and at the end of the day, there's nothing being done about it. So it's unfortunate. You know, my wife and I have had many days where we've been very upset and cried and we're emotional about it, but we know it's done, it's done. But I think we need to think about replacement program. We talked with, I forget the gal's name, Marissa. My wife's had ongoing conversations with her, and she said there's no budget to put that in the plan. Really? But we're celebrating Tree City, Illinois, with 76 other cities in the state of Illinois. Are you kidding me? One of the wealthiest, most prosperous communities in the state of Illinois. So I think y'all need to think about it. Come to my house. I'll show you pictures. 13-point buck, 10-point buck, 8-point buck, 7 does, 2 coyotes in my backyard this morning. It's an unbelievable area. And by the way, the deer haven't left. I know everybody thinks the deer will migrate to Elk Grove, and I truly believe they will, because I'm an outdoors guy. But the reality is they haven't left yet. 4 were in my backyard last night, eating at my feeder. So we've had the blessing of having that land there for years. I get it. I told my wife when we bought the house, we may only be there for 3 or 4 years in the city. The 211 could sell it. And at the end of the day, you know, it goes away. I said, we got 25 years. It's a blessing. But the reality is, when I heard, you know, I just came here. You never see me here. I've never been here. maybe 5 years ago for some other function to support somebody else. But I just think we need to think about what we're doing as far as the trees. You know, one of those ash borer trees you're talking about, were taken out of my property like 2 years ago. So I don't have a new tree back in there yet, because it usually takes about 3 to 5 years for us to get a new tree back in. So, I don't know, Marge, congratulations. I guess you're retiring,
Thank
huh?
you. Yes, this is my last night.
Okay, well, congratulations.
you.
I'll give this for the record.
Well, and you can give it, because then I'll just pass it on. So if you want to, we'll give it to the secretary, and then she'll pass it to all of us.
So I appreciate you just listening, because I can appreciate everything you've all been through with regard to this whole development, and a lot of BS that's probably been said, but a lot of it, some of it's true and a lot of it's not. But appreciate you listening, and maybe at a future date we can get something done with the green wall along that path, and we can plant some trees. And anybody's welcome. My address is on there. You're welcome to come to my house and see the deer in my backyard. They're there almost every day, either at night or in the morning. So if you're an outdoorsman and you like to see a high-quality buck, come to my house. They used to be there. 13-pointer, 10-pointer, 8-pointer. And the does and the fawns would come in the spring. It's awesome. So thank you for listening.
So if I may, I don't think your ask is unreasonable. If we're going to be looking to do something in particular with a bike path, that we certainly can take a further look, and rather than just throw down some asphalt. So I'd like to ask staff to review that and see what ideas they may come up with, and bring it to a committee, and certainly notify you when that conversation takes place.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
It's going to be a remarkable thing, ultimately, to have the bridge over Roselle and carry all the way to Bartlett, Elk Grove Village. It's going to be amazing. But I also know with it comes lots of traffic and lots of people pooping in your yard with their dog and not cleaning up their messes. Frankly, the deer do a better job than people do with their dogs cleaning up their messes. So, you know, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience here? So in Village Hall, no one else. Okay, we're going to turn over to the Zoom, those on Zoom. If there's anyone there that wishes to speak to the Village Board for matters pertinent towards the Village of Schaumburg, please unmute yourself and let us know who you are, and we'll go from there. Okay, seeing no one, I do believe Village Manager Brian Townsend has an item.
President Daley, we did receive an email late this afternoon from Gail Mockler. I see she's here on the Zoom call this evening. She expressed some concerns about the grading and primarily grading related to a swale and the redirection of stormwater flow on the Nitty property. We're not going to go into the details this evening. I just wanted to make sure that the board understood that we did receive this. It's been referred to Julie Fitzgerald in Community Development, and we will have staff follow up with Ms. Mockler and address those concerns.
Okay, thank you. Sure, but you're going to come up here a little closer so we can hear you. Doesn't carry as well.
You brought up the grading issue. So when I had Brian out, when I had the head of Brian out, right, Brian and Todd and the guy from Homer, in finding out that the whole reason they took on all these trees that were behind, by the way, we were told early on they were not going to go away. They were going to stay. What happened apparently is they changed and moved the drain water. They created a drain water basin on the north side of the property that's looks like about 100 yards long. By moving that from where it was inside, I said to him at the time, this was last Thursday, I said, why the heck did you put the drain basin right here? The water doesn't go this direction. The water flows to the two ponds that are behind here. It's all graded there, guys. But you're going to spend $250,000 to put in a drain basin on the back of this property, and you need to take down these 150 trees because of that. Ridiculous. But what am I to do? They're there, and the guy from Homer tells me, Randy, I'm going to need an answer here shortly from these guys, and I'm going to need to cut down all the trees. So the reality was that whole thing, the whole scenario of what happened was ill-advised. I understand there's sophisticated engineers involved, but somebody missed the boat and changed and took down all these grand and glorious trees to put a pipeline in, so it was on that north line right of the pipeline, right against Nitty's property, because they wanted it there. They didn't have to put it there. In fact, it should have been inside the property line further, where it actually could collect water and move it down towards the lakes and the ponds, or wherever else it's going to drain to. It's going to be 10, 12 feet down. Instead, they put it at the highest point, which is my backyard. Why have I never flooded? Because I'm at the highest point grade in the property in that area. But we just spent $250,000 to put drain tile in there, 24-inch basins to clutch the water so it wouldn't come in our yard. But it's the highest point in Schaumburg, for that area right there. Just,
Well, I don't believe it's not the village doing it. It's Nitty having to do that.
okay. Yeah.
I
But that-
understand.
The whole thing with the trees, it should never have happened.
Unfortunately, we give them what they need to do with the property. They need to grade it. They need to make sure that it's not impacting other neighbors, and from there, it's their engineers who make those decisions on how that works. And I can't speak for them. I don't.
Yeah, I appreciate they told us that the grading, Mr. Mayor, that the grading was actually going to move up. About they said 12 to 18 to possibly 24 inches. That's fine. It's now going to make it it was high already. It's even going to be higher. The water's still going that way. It's not coming in my backyard. I don't have flood issues. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. All right, anyone else? If not, we're going to move on to council report.
Thank you, President Daley. Just one item on the agenda, housekeeping matter to extend the emergency measures that were put in place as a result of the pandemic. So we'll just be looking for a motion to recommend extension of the proclamation declaring a local state of emergency originally made on March 20th, 2020 until the adjournment of the next meeting of the Village of Schaumburg Board of Trustees.
So
Move
moved.
to extend the proclamation.
There's a motion by trustee Kozak, seconded by
I actually made the motion.
trustee,
Conley?
okay.
Oh, did we?
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Conley?
Aye.
Trustee Sullivan?
Aye.
Trustee Dunham?
Aye.
Trustee Madej?
Aye.
Trustee Bishke?
Aye.
Trustee Kozak?
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. President's report. I actually have 2 items. First one is a number of individuals to either be appointed or reappointed to committees. Mr. David Utley is coming back as chair of the Plan Commission and the Plan Commission Community Development Block Grant Subcommittee, replacing Jamie, who is obviously coming to the village board. We also have 3 individuals to be added to the Environmental Committee, and I'm going to have difficulty with this. Rizar, I'm not sure. George, you are the expert on this stuff.
I would say Pushkars.
Thank you. I won't even try and repeat it.
Don't quote me.
It's better than I would have done. Elizabeth Wimmer and Robert Washmark.
Walksmouth.
Okay. So these 3 individuals want to join the Environmental Committee. We've been short there, so that's good. Electrical Commission, we have Jamie was chair, and leaving that commission, obviously, to come to the board, looking to appoint Michael LaRosa as chair. The other 3 are members that are just returning. Environmental Committee are just 4 members that are returning at this point. So there'll be further appointments for next month, or the month of first or beginning of June. Any questions, comments on this?
Move to recommend approval.
Second.
Motion by trustee Dunham, second by
Sullivan?
Sullivan. Thank you very much. Okay, any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Conley.
Aye.
Trustee Sullivan.
Aye.
Trustee Dunham.
Aye.
Trustee Madey.
Aye.
Trustee Bishki.
Aye.
Trustee Kozak.
Aye.
Thank you. Second item I have is just to mention the community recycling event that was held on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. I happened to personally go there at about 10:15. Saw a long line and thought, oh boy, here we go. But it moved very quickly. There's a lot of volunteers there, public works people, trucks. It just flowed right through the Wintrust field area, or not the field, but in the parking lot, and flowed right through the parking lot. You pulled up, and they had different stations for what you wanted to drop off. I had electronics, so it was up at the front. You moved up there. They either took them out of the trunk, or in my case, off my back seat, and boom, I was gone. So it flowed very, very well. It was a great event. I don't know how much they collected, but everybody did an excellent job, and very glad to see it was done. So thank you very much for that. Yes. Oh, yes. My mistake. Passed right over that. Thank you. Village manager just reminded me that I forgot. Item number 1 under here is the appointment of chairpersons and members to standing committees. You have a list as to who's going to which ones, or staying on which ones. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Are we done with trustee comments?
No, we didn't get there yet.
No, I'm still on
There you go,
president's
okay.
report, yeah.
All right, sorry.
So I haven't gotten there yet. Okay. Any questions, comments on the list of the chairpersons and members to standing committee appointments? Nothing
Move to
further?
approve as presented?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve as presented. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Conley.
Aye.
Trustee Sullivan.
Aye.
Trustee Dunham.
Aye.
Trustee Madey.
Aye.
Trustee Bishki.
Aye.
Trustee Kozak.
Aye.
Okay, that's all under President's report. Village manager's report.
Good evening. I'd like to use my time this evening to recognize Trustee Conley and just say a few things on behalf of all of the staff here at the Village of Schaumburg. First of all, I want to say what a pleasure it's been to work with you over the past 8 years as village manager. During the time that we've worked together, I really appreciated the things that you would do to make the village a better place. And it seemed like every time we would talk about an issue or you would deliberate on something, you'd always bring your experience to the table, whether it be a park board commissioner or a zoning board member or an employee of Ameritech or just a resident of the village. You always used your past experiences, whether in your public life or your personal life or your professional life, to ensure the village would be a better place. That's very much appreciated. As chair of the Engineering and Public Works Committee, you demonstrated very strong leadership in scrutinizing the staff recommendations that came forward and ensuring that thoughtful recommendations were advanced to the village board. Even more importantly, that committee is tasked with a number of very difficult issues, and sometimes we have people coming to that committee that are very upset with the village for one reason or another. And I always admired your ability during your chairmanship to gain a full understanding of the issue, take the time to understand where the residents were coming from, make sure they understood where the village was coming from, and then try and advocate the best path forward. I think that was very commendable on your part. As village manager, I always appreciated your very pragmatic approach to things. You were straightforward in directing your communications. I never had to wonder where you stood on an issue. You would always tell me directly how you felt about it. And as a village manager, that's very important. And I always appreciated the candid communication. And you'd call me on the phone and we'd talk through an issue and you'd say, I don't want to take a lot of your time. And 30 minutes later, we were still talking about the issue. But it was always a very good conversation and I appreciated it. And finally, and I know I speak for all staff in saying this, when I say that you demonstrated a sincere appreciation for what we do on a daily basis to serve the residents of the village. And you always understood how hard we work to try and deliver high-quality services. We can't make all the people happy all the time, but we strive to do the best we can, and you understood that, and even the message that you sent to staff this evening demonstrated that you appreciate what we do. And And I think we all appreciate that you appreciate what we do for the village. So on behalf of all of us, I wish you the absolute best in all of your future endeavors, and I hope you're able to relax and have fun in your retirement. So congratulations, Marge.
Thank you very much.
Next item is new business. We have none. Unfinished business. None. Trustee comments and mentions. And I would appreciate if you'd let me jump in here. We do have an item here, but allow everybody to have an opportunity to speak. And of course, you know we're all going to speak about you, Marge. You've received some flowers here from the board, from Marilyn. I had the benefit of them sitting in my office all day, and they smell lovely, so I can guarantee it. It was like, wow, I walked in after lunch, and it was like, this smells so good, you know. So I'm glad you got those. Let me take a minute here to read a retirement plaque that we have for you. So this is in grateful appreciation to Marge Conley, Village Trustee, in recognition of 24 years as Village Trustee and 38 years overall of dedicated service to the Village of Schaumburg that has improved services to residents, enhanced the arts in our community, enriched Schaumburg's quality of life. 1997 to 2021. Congratulations and best wishes from the Village President, Village Board, Village Clerk, Village Manager, and employees of the Village of Schaumburg. I also have the proclamation that was approved tonight, and I would like to take a minute to, or probably a couple of minutes, I guess, to read this, because I think it's really important. It really highlights, much like Bill did, highlights a lot of involvement that you had in the village. So I think it's important to spend a minute doing this. Whereas Marge Conley has been a resident of the Village of Schaumburg since 1972. Whereas Marge Conley served for 12 years on the Schaumburg Park Board from 83 to 95, including 4 years as board president. And whereas Marge Conley was appointed to the trustee to the Village Board in August 1997, was elected as trustee in April 1999, and whereas Marge Conley served as chair of the Engineering and Public Works Committee, member of the Finance, Legal, Administrative, General Government Committee, and member of the Health and Human Services Committee, and whereas Marge Conley served as a member of the 1% for Art Committee, is a director on the Prairie Center Arts Foundation Board, and a member of the board of the Schweiker Langsdorff House Preservation Trust, and whereas Marge Conley played a key role in many of the community assets in the Village of Schaumburg, including Safety Park, Olympic Park, Schaumburg Golf Club acquisition, Engineering and Public Works Facility expansion and renovation, Wintrust Field, Boomer Stadium, Renaissance Hotel and Schaumburg Convention Center, Town Square, 90 North redevelopment, and other projects too numerous to list, and that is true. There is all sorts that could be listed here. Whereas Marge Conley has played a crucial role in the Village of Schaumburg being recognized by national organizations as a place to live, work, and play, including the best place to live in Illinois, and whereas the 38 years of community service of Marge Conley has been marked by exemplary and energetic leadership and the vital accomplishments of the Schaumburg Park District and the Village of Schaumburg, and whereas Marge Conley will conclude her service as an elected official effective April 27, 2021, and whereas the Village of Schaumburg wishes to extend deep appreciation to Marge Conley for her community support and strong support. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Village President of the Village of Schaumburg that Marge Conley be commended for her outstanding efforts on behalf of the residents of Schaumburg, and does hereby proclaim that all members of the community should express their appreciation for the service and dedication by Marge Conley over the past 38 years. Signed, Tom Daly, Village President.
Thank you, sir.
This was in your packet and on the board agenda. And I will pass this down, but this is a plaque. I'm going to stand up here a minute so you all can see it. It's a nice plaque. I think it's fake marble. I don't think it's real. It's an etching, and it shows all sorts of places in Schaumburg. It shows the Zurich Building, Woodfield Mall, Town Square. It shows it's got a carnival here, medieval times, church, library, all the things, the ballpark, a lot of things, and certainly that Marge was involved in and had an opportunity to. I wish I had one of these. This is to Village Trustee Marge Conley from 1997 to 2021, appreciation of 24 years of loyal service to the people of Schaumburg. So take this with you wherever you go, and it reminds you of being here in the village. So if I can ask
Thank you.
to pass that down. Thank you. And for me, you know, we've talked. I've told you how much I'm going to miss having you here and the ability to have somebody to converse with. I can bounce things off of. I can talk freely, bluntly, candidly about things, and always had someone to chat with, and knowing sometimes we wouldn't agree, but that was the great thing about it, was because I knew that we wouldn't always agree, but I had someone to go to like that. Not that I don't go to you guys, but, you know, it's, Marge was kind
Al
of
always said I
special
was
for
his
that.
favorite trustee.
Harvey?
Remember, Al always used to say I was his favorite
Yes,
trustee.
absolutely.
Of course, he
So,
said that to each of you.
yeah, if he was here, I'm sure he would say the same thing, so, but we will definitely miss you, Marge, definitely miss you, so. Shall we go down? We'll start with George. You want to start first?
Wow. It's been an honor to serve with you. I didn't know you well when you came on the village board, but boy, I found out fast that there wasn't too much that ever got by you. And not that I ever tried, but you had an intrinsic grasp of the technicalities of you know, things relating to finance and management and so forth, and I learned a ton from working with you. I'm going to be sorry that you're not going to be around as much to bounce things off of and to talk about and to soundly disagree from time to time. We did. But in all that, you were, you know, probably a major influence and made all of us better. And we're going to miss you. But thanks for the time that you gave us. Thanks for the time you gave to the community, and take care.
Thank you, sir.
Mark, trustee?
Yeah, one of the things that I learned from Marge was negotiation. She, I think we came from the same school, AT&T, learned quite a bit. We both worked at the company, and I got to know Marge once I got on the board. Actually, before I got on the board, when I was going to the EPW and learning a little more about how things operate. And one of the things Marge was really good at is listening to everybody's opinion and weighing it all evenly. She didn't lean one way or the other until she got all the facts in front of her to make a concise decision. And that's one of the things I learned from you, Marge, is to listen before speaking. And I think that's a very important lesson, and I appreciate that. And you will be missed. I don't know if you're going to Florida or you're sticking around, but if you're sticking around, we're going to have some dinners together, because I'm going to miss the conversations. And I want to thank you for your enlightenment.
Thank you.
Trustee Bishke?
So, of all of us sitting up here, I've actually had the least amount of time to serve with you, Marge, and I think for that I'm a little feel a little shortchanged. You have for the last 2 years, both working with you on the the Engineering Public Works Committee and Flag Committee, both. You have helped me to understand things that that I didn't know before I was elected, quite honestly, and heard you say a few things. You can't imagine how many notes I took and pulled up Google when I got home after some of our meetings and pulled up things to find out what you were talking about, because your breadth of knowledge of, especially in the engineering and public works area, is just phenomenal. And I'm going to miss that, and you might get some phone calls from time to time when I have something that I'm really kind of on the fence about, just to see, what your thoughts would be on it. Your ability to be direct and candid is something that I think the rest of us lack, and that will be something that we will all have to work on, because that's required really in our role, and you do it better than anybody. You listen to petitioners that are upset and angry about things, or concerned about things, and like the other trustees and Brian and the mayor have said, you just listen to everything, and then you formulate a decision, and it's not always what the petitioner wants to hear, but sometimes it's not what the village wants to hear, and you're not afraid to put that out there and to go down that path, and I just think that that's an awesome trait, and you are going to be missed more than you know. So
Thank you.
we wish you very much success in your next endeavors, and thank you very much for your service to Schaumburg.
Thank you.
Trustee Sullivan.
Marge, it has been an absolute honor and a privilege to work with you these last 24 years. Your wisdom and your intelligence has kept us out of quite a few problems. You'll always, when we're starting to go astray, you'll always jump in and guide us in the right direction. Over the years, when I first got elected, I used to tell myself, what would Bob Atcher do? And the last couple of years, I've been, what would Al Larson do? And now I'm going to have a third voice in my head. What would Marge Connolly do? With all these people talking to me, how can I go wrong? Good luck in your retirement and enjoy. Thank you, Marge.
Trustee Kozak.
I sat here for 12 years next to this lady from the day one I come on this board. And there's nobody on this board in 12 years that I've had more yays and nays against. I voted yay, she voted nay. She voted yay, I voted nay. And we've had this rapport. But I have to say this, you have brought a lot of knowledge to this board, and I've learned from you over the years. I must say that, and it's been interesting working with you, Marge, and that's the neat thing about this board. We all have different ideas and different scopes, and it's not a rubber stamp board, and that's what makes this board so unique. And I think that's what's you brought it to the village board and made it so unique and interesting for the village people. And I use this village people thing all the time. As long as I don't mean to use it. We're not going into recording, don't worry about it. You have brought a lot to the table here, and you're going to be missed. It's been very enjoyable working with you over the years. Good luck down there in Florida or wherever you're going. It's been a lot of fun working with you.
Thank you. Marilyn.
I haven't had the working relationship with Marge as the rest of the board has, but I met Marge working over at the Prairie Center on the foundation board, and we worked together over there and had some enjoyable conversations about family and kids and personal things, hair. And it's been a nice personal relationship just to be comfortable with, and to know that there's a friend out there that's business and friendship, and I'll miss not seeing that friendly face smiling and knowing that it's a nice hi, how you doing, and I know you're going to enjoy your retirement, and maybe one day I'll get to retire too. But, good luck and be happy.
Thank you.
So I've saved one more. And I've saved the legal person, the attorney for the end, so he can give us all the disclaimers and all the things that, he wants to put in there.
I
So
didn't know
by all
the
means.
attorney was going to speak.
Yes, Howie.
So this is a very official legal commemoration of your service. But Trustee Connolly, just on behalf of myself, Lance, Caitlin, and everybody else at KTJ. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. We wish you, nothing but happiness and success in whatever you do next. It's always been a pleasure to talk with you. Always been a pleasure to work with you in your service to the village. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So before you speak, I am going to open it up, kind of deviate here from the agenda, and if there's anyone in the audience that wants to get up and speak and say something for Marge and her service, by all means, now is the time to do it. Okay. Marge, the floor is yours.
Well, as Brian said, I would call and say, I don't want to take too much of your time, 5 minutes and be 30, but I'm trying not to do that tonight. It's just very weird. It's sort of like being at a funeral and being in the casket and everybody doing the eulogy and the flowers are on my chest. It's a weird kind of thing, and I'm very blessed by that because not very many people are in situations like this where so many people can say such nice things. So I do appreciate it. To clarify, I'm going to stay in town. I'm not selling my house right now, but I intend to stay in the community. I intend to be involved in the community. I'm going to stay involved at Schweiker House and hopefully on 1% for Art as we build out Progress Park and acquire sculptures. Maybe I'll stay in that. But I will be going to Florida more. Bill flew in this afternoon. I was sort of shocked because we're flying back tomorrow morning and we're going to be shutting his house down in Florida, and I'll probably be driving back in 10 days. But now I won't have to worry that I have to be back here at 7 o'clock on May the 11th. And so if we want to stay an extra day, I'll be able to do that. The people I want to thank, my two sons are here, Michael and Paul, and my grandchildren and my daughter-in-law are on the Zoom call. And my kids experienced through those many years when they were young, me having to walk out of events. I would have a park board meeting initially, or later maybe a village board. My son Michael was a musician, and sometimes I would have to sit in the back row, hear him play his solo because he was a very accomplished musician at Schaumburg High School, and stand up and walk out. I didn't get to stay and, have cookies and all that other stuff. And so my kids were used to that. And if it was not for my husband George and my children's indulgence of those early years in public service, I would never have learned as much in those early years and been able to do this. Some of the other stuff I learned from people like my dad and my brother. My dad was a president of a labor union, and so we would talk asphalt and concrete at the table on Sunday. And in those early days with the Park District, when we were doing stuff, I could ask them those kind of questions. Also, I had a lot of people who supported me, Jerry Hanlon and Jerry Bear, George Kane from Church of the Holy Spirit. And then also a number of women in those early days, Virginia Hayter and Ginny McDonald and Eugenia Chapman, were women that I encountered at League of Women Voters who were involved and very committed and very bright people. But I was just a housewife. I started doing stuff at the church. I started doing stuff at PTA, and it's because people like Bill and the fellow trustees that I worked with and the others that I've just named showed their confidence in me, I was able to grow and to grow into this position. Obviously, I need to thank Al. I ran in 1981, and Al came out the week before I was running on Park Board and supported some other folks. And he was surprised, I think, that I only missed that election by 37 votes. And he became a fan. And obviously, through my years on the Park District, he was a mentor and appointed me to be on the village board. So I have lots and lots of people to thank. Obviously, serving in this community during those years was unbelievable. When I moved in, there were cows across from Church of the Holy Spirit. And what's happened in this community, and it's just, it's very unique. Many public officials never get to do any of one of the things that I've been able to be involved with. And so it's really been a blessing both for myself and my family. And then the staff. both at the Park District, but particularly here at the Village. We have such a talented, creative, just the highest level of professionalism. The kind of documents that we get are of such a caliber. I mean, and as Mark said, coming from a big corporation, I was used to big documents, and I've written big documents or been involved in them, and the kind of quality that comes out of this organization is really something. And the kind of pride that you see in all of our employees, whether they're secretaries or the public works guys, or just everybody I encounter, and I say who I am and we start talking, you can just see that pride. And I think that's what makes the community like it is. So again, I'm not going away. I'm going to be here, and everybody knows where to find me. My cell phone number and my email address aren't changing, so I'll be around. I may be on that side, and I really appreciate all the nice things that were said this evening, and thank you to the voters for ever entrusting me with this. But thank you.
Thank you.
Do I get to move to adjourn?
Okay, so we do have a couple of more items here, and then there will be some cake. Yes, she knows I like cake. Cake and coffee and that afterwards. So bear with us as we finish through the agenda. Trustee Bischke?
I was wondering if they can open up the chat so Marge can see a note.
I was reading that. It
Oh.
was said in congratulations from my grandchildren.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So if you
I
can,
saw that in the chat.
there you go.
Yeah, congratulations, Grandma, from your grandchildren. We're proud of you. I made sure that they listened to this,
Yeah.
because, they don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm the one who burns the mac and cheese, no, I don't burn mac and cheese. I make the best mac and cheese. But I'm the one who burns the grilled cheese sandwich, so I wanted them to understand a little bit. Thank you. So I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Trustee Conley,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Bischke.
Excuse me, Tom?
Yes.
Can we do comments or trustee comments?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't finish in case there was other comments, so,
I do have something.
okay, so let's hold the motion
Withdraw my
for,
motion.
all right.
It's been alluded to already. We had a very, what looked like a very successful recycling event this weekend, and there was one person who was instrumental in that effort, as he has been instrumental in many other recycling events. Many of you know Marty Matrager. Marty might correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's retiring on Friday, is he not? Yes. Yeah. And Marty is kind of the unsung hero of the village's recycling activity and our relationship with Republic, who hauls the trash and picks up the recycling and so forth. This is a guy who has worked tirelessly for many, many years on these events. He is by no means the only one. He's one of many. But you can always recognize Marty at these things because he's the only one that's got the courage to wear a straw Stetson hat. And he is, I saw him on Saturday. We talked for a few moments. I had no idea that he was going to be leaving us, but and he's probably not going to hear this, but I would like, on behalf of myself, my family, and hopefully the rest of the board, I would like to thank Marty for his many years of service to the village.
Thank you, George. Anyone else under trustee comments? If not now, we'll entertain that motion.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn and seconded by trustee Bischke. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Conley.
Aye.
Trustee Sullivan.
Aye.
Trustee Dunham.
Aye.
Trustee Madej.
Aye.
Trustee Bischke.
Aye.
Trustee Kozak.
6 ayes,
Aye.
no nays, no nays. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to do a very fun event, inauguration of elected officials. First one we have is a swearing in of trustee Jack Sullivan by Village Clerk Marilyn Carr. So,
Whatever you want.
I, Jack Sullivan,
Having been elected to the position of village trustee
having been elected to the position of village trustee
in the village of Schaumburg,
in the village of Schaumburg,
counties of Cook and DuPage,
counties of Cook and DuPage,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of
the
Illinois,
Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and all the ordinances
and all the ordinances
of the village of Schaumburg,
of the village of Schaumburg,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of village trustee
the duties of village trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
And another 4 years.
we now have the swearing in of trustee Frank Kozak.
Please raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, state your name. Having been elected to the position of village trustee in the village of Schaumburg, counties of Cook and DuPage, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and all the ordinances of the village of Schaumburg, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of village trustee according to the best of my ability.
And now, we have the swearing in of newly elected trustee, soon-to-be trustee, Jamie Clark.
I state your name.
I, James Clark,
Having been elected
having been elected
to the position of village trustee
to the position of village trustee
in the village of Schaumburg,
in the village of Schaumburg,
counties of Cook and DuPage,
counties of Cook and DuPage,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
that all the ordinances of the village of Schaumburg,
all the ordinances of the village of Schaumburg,
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of village trustee
the duties of village trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
You wanted to come up with
Well, I don't know if we need to, at this point, we're just adjourning. There's no motion, right? No motion, we're done. No motion. We're done, so everyone is invited to stay. There is, as I mentioned, there's some cake. I don't suppose we have any ice cream, do we? No ice cream. All right, we have cake and coffee, that here, so you're all welcome to